This is week 2 of environmental ethics. Hopefully, the first week went smoothly and accessing the online materials worked out well for you. So, where are we going with week 2? You'll recall from the readings during the first week with the Stanford Encyclopedia, there was a historical trajectory of environmental ethics. And what I want to do for the second week is look at one of the foundational texts of environmental ethics. And this is a text written by a forester named Aldo Leopold in 1949. It's called The Land Ethic, and it's part of his book, The Sand County Almanac. Now, Leopold was not technically a philosopher, not trained as a philosopher. In fact, he was a forester. And he is credited with really introducing environmental thought or ecological thought, which begins to gain traction in the latter part of the 20th century. Because his background is not in philosophy but in forestry, we can expect his text to be less than argumentative with regards to positioning his idea about environmental ethics and about ecological holism, as it is sometimes called. So when you read his text, I would suggest reading it not for the argument that it presents, but rather as the introduction of an idea, a way of thinking that really alters our manner of engaging in moral thought and moral consideration. So, for most of Western philosophy, moral thinking and ethical thought has been organized around the individual, around the sort of Cartesian subject. And the idea of ethics is how, once I know about myself and my own needs and desires, do I reconcile my living with others? And how do I extend certain rights and responsibilities to the others that I encounter in the world? Leopold really alters that way of thinking in a way that's completely radical. He says the idea that we should have is not of individuals, but rather it should be a more holistic way of looking at things. And as a result of this sort of shift in focus, he tends to move our viewpoint from the individual, which is a very sort of Western European way of looking at things, to this kind of communal holism, where you look not at individual specimens, but at communities of specimens, at species, at soils, at waters, and all kinds of things that normally fall outside the realm of moral consideration. So read Leopold as a way of shifting our focus and look at his work not so much as making a systematic argument for this, but rather as a way of introducing this shift in focus and sort of spurring our ideas in such a way that get us to think outside the box of the way we normally do things. The second piece you're going to read is a piece from J. Bard Kellicott, who is one of the really big influential thinkers in the early part of the environmental philosophy movement in the United States. Kellicott was a professor of philosophy at the University of Wisconsin in Stevens Point, and he provides, I think, for us a lot of the philosophical background for the land ethic. In other words, Leopold introduces the idea, Kellicott picks it up, and develops its philosophical heft. He's the one who will give you the arguments. He's the one who will tie what Leopold does to its philosophical roots in both Darwinian thinking and in David Hume's moral philosophy. He will also help us grapple with some of the criticisms that have come to the land ethic in the form of ecofascism and other ways of looking at what Leopold did and building a critical response to it. And so Kellicott, in a way, is a defender of Aldo Leopold's position, but he does so with the kind of philosophical influence, the kind of philosophical background, and the argumentative strength that we normally require for thinking in this fashion. So, as usual, I've posted questions for you to use as you do the reading. I encourage you to look at the questions before you start the reading. Read the Leopold piece first, the Kellicott piece second, and then return to the questions and try to develop your own best response to them and record those either in your notebook or in your reading journal. So that's all I have for this week. I hope you enjoy the Leopold piece, and I'll talk to you again in a week's time. Bye.